This is the story of how a place can rise from nothing, become a center of intellectual and cultural life, and then turn into a landscape of unthinkable terror and destruction. This is the story of a district shaped by German history like no other, a district that was almost forgotten. This is the forgotten history of Jewish Switzerland. In the early 20th century, this area was the cultural hub of Jewish life in Berlin, with personalities like Albert Einstein living here and walking the streets. After the Nazis took power, Jewish life was completely eradicated in only a couple of years. What's still left of this history? And what does the district look like today? Let's take a closer look. But first, let's start from the beginning. When Berlin became the capital of the German Empire in 1971, Berlin was experiencing unprecedented population growth. Between 1870 and 1910, Berlin's population more than doubled, expanding at one of the fastest rates in modern urban history. Even then, much like today, Berlin attracted more people than it could house. This made Berlin the most densely populated urban region in the world. Berlin became one of Europe's most dynamic cities. But this rapid growth also put enormous pressure on housing and infrastructure. Homes for over 1 million new residents had to be built. The land that would become the Bavarian Quarter was open farmland. The land was acquired by Georg Haberland, an influential Jewish merchant and real estate developer. He had a clear vision for the district, a residential area for a liberal, educated clientele, for lawyers, doctors, and intellectuals. The model for the quarter was that of a small Bavarian town, from Haberland's fascination with medieval Bavaria, which can also still be seen in some of its architecture. To attract residents, he followed modern urban design principles. Dark inner courtyards, which Berlin was notorious for, were deliberately avoided. Instead, front gardens, green street islands, and, most importantly, public squares shaped the quarter's character. The Bayerische Platz formed the spatial heart of the neighborhood, while the Viktoria-Luise-Platz acted as the aesthetic center of the district. Instead of just focusing on cost efficiency and quickly creating more housing, Haberland wanted to focus on actually creating a district that had a high quality of life, was modern, and was visually appealing. Modernity was ensured through electric lighting and the newly built U4 underground line. The plan worked. The Bavarian Quarter quickly became a vibrant center of cultural and intellectual life within Berlin's rapidly growing urban fabric. It soon gained a reputation as the most elegant neighborhood in Western Berlin. Because much of the intellectual and cultural life in Berlin was Jewish, an above-average number of Jewish residents settled here. In the early 1930s, around 4% of Berlin's population was Jewish. In the Bavarian Quarter, the share was roughly twice as high. This led to the area quickly becoming a focal point of Jewish life in the imperial capital. Many prominent Jewish figures lived here. Among them Albert Einstein, Hannah Arendt, and Billy Wilder. Georg Haberland himself lived in the quarter, commissioning a castle-like residence at the number 7 of the Haberlandstraße, distinguished by its left-hand tower, while Albert Einstein resided just behind, at number 5. In its attic tower room, he worked, hosted colleagues, and welcomed prominent guests from Charlie Chaplin to Walter Rathenau. Yet within just a few years, this successful experiment, home to major architectural achievements and some of the greatest minds of our time, was almost entirely erased. In 1933, around 16,000 Jews lived in the Bavarian Quarter. 10 years later, there were none. The speed and scale of what followed seem almost unimaginable. On January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Reich Chancellor. The Weimar Republic came to an end, and the road to Nazi dictatorship began. On that day, the course of German history and the lives of millions would be altered forever. This political rupture would transform the Bavarian Quarter beyond recognition within just a few years. The cultural and social life in the quarter quickly began to collapse. All traces of Jewish residents were to be erased. Haberlandstraße became Nördlinger Straße and Treuchtlinger Straße. An exodus of intellectual life began. While many Jewish residents saw the writing on the wall and decided to emigrate early, a decision that would save their life, for countless others, it would be too late. In late February of 1943, raids and mass arrests took place in the Bavarian Quarter. Over the following months, almost all of the roughly 6,000 Jews still living in Schöneberg were deported to ghettos and extermination camps. By June 1943, the Bavarian Quarter and all of Schöneberg was officially declared free of Jews, Judenfrei, as demanded by Hermann Göring. Georg Haberland himself did not live to see what happened to his legacy or to his area. He died in 1933 and was spared witnessing his brother being deported to the Mauthausen concentration camp, his family home being destroyed, and also his quarter being completely devastated. While the Nazis had dismantled the human fabric of the Bavarian Quarter, the Allied bombing raids delivered its final blow. Around 75% of its buildings were destroyed in Allied air raids. The Bayerische Platz, the heart of the district, was completely devastated. 3 direct hits destroyed the train station. The tunnel roof collapsed, killing over 60 people who had sought shelter below. During Reconstruction, functionality often replaced ornament. Surviving buildings were frequently stripped of their stucco, a common post-war practice throughout Berlin. Later restorations, however, reinstated some historic details under heritage protection. Today, the district features a unique architectural mix: concrete slabs, ornate facades, and buildings that feel more Bavarian than Prussian. Many streets were completely torn down and rebuilt. On iconic Haberlandstraße, both Haberland's and Einstein's former residencies were destroyed, and the street's appearance has dramatically changed. The Bayerische Platz still exists today, but it is almost completely unrecognizable compared to its original design. At the Viktoria-Luise-Platz, many houses still appear in the ornate style in which they were originally constructed. Botzener Straße is also a good example of the effort to preserve the past. Here, the neighborhood still appears much as it once did. At the far end of the T-shaped street, a grand oak tree still stands, a silent witness to the vanished district. Another remnant is the bookstore at Bayerischer Platz. Opened in 1919, it still exists today. While architecture and urban form could partially be reconstructed, the social and cultural life of that era is lost forever. Memorial plaques, stumbling stones, and a unique memorial encircling the entire quarter remind of the crimes of the Third Reich. This culture of remembrance didn't emerge immediately. Not until the 1980s were the traces of Jewish life in this area discovered and also remembered accordingly. It took the committed residents of this area to uncover its difficult past. Through their efforts, the fate of most of Schöneberg's Jewish inhabitants could finally be reconstructed. In response, local authorities commissioned the memorial Places of Remembrance. The memorial consists of 80 signs put up throughout the Bavarian Quarter. On one side, simple, almost decorative images, which seem harmless at first glance. But looking at the reverse side, and the meaning shifts. Quotations show the laws that strip Jewish citizens of their rights. Image and text either align or expose a cruel contradiction. Subtle, yet deeply unsettling, the memorial blends into daily life. Walking the streets, the contrast becomes unavoidable. So this is the sign saying that Jews are not allowed to use normal benches in the park, but only yellow benches. And yeah, these signs are all over the district. The memorial intrudes into everyday routines, much like anti-Semitism once did. In plain sight, normalized, and yet profoundly inhumane. The tension between the seemingly harmless symbols and the brutal measures described on the reverse side intensifies the shock, revealing how ordinary life and persecution coexisted side by side. The memorial makes clear that the persecution of Jews did not happen overnight. It was a gradual process, one of eroding rights, isolating people, and excluding them from society. Coming to terms with this past also meant restoring names. The Nazis had erased Haberlandstraße only in 1996, after public debate sparked by the memorial was part of the street finally renamed. Some of the past has been rebuilt, but the district itself has been changed forever. It took the committed residents to uncover the history beneath its streets. Without them, the memory of Jewish Switzerland and its residents, who witnessed modern urban planning turn into a machinery of fear and death, might have vanished entirely. It makes you wonder how many other places carry stories like this, still buried beneath everyday life, and whether one day our own districts and the lives within them might also fade into silence.